Welcome everybody, I'm Mandy from Floral Designs. Today we are celebrating Garden Day, which will be taking place on the 11th of October on Sunday, and I've been honoured to actually design and create a hair flower garland, something at the moment that is very fashionable, very trendy for weddings, for baby showers and for christenings. I'm going to do a garland that's quite technical, using the wiring and taping technique, and we want to have fun. Flowers spread love, and it's all about being creative and just having fun in what we do. Right, now the fun starts. It's all about preparation and making sure you've got the right products and have a plan when designing your coronet. Firstly, look for a theme and what is the look and feel you want. And secondly, the type of flowers that are available that are going to complement your dress or the style or the ambiance that you want to create at the end result. So I have chosen the little cluster red rose, or the garden cluster red rose, the Pittosporum bush, lovely foliage to work with, it's light, it's fresh. The Geraldton wax lasts long, it's durable when wired and taped, so you don't have to stress if it wilts. The eucalyptus or penny gum, this has a beautiful scent and lovely healing purposes. You can use this in the shower, and that scent in the shower gives you a beautiful aroma for healing. And eucalyptus is so hardy, you don't have to worry about the treatment of this particular greenery, particularly with wiring and taping. And then we've got our favorite for most is the Million Star or Baby's Breath. Baby's Breath just gives it a soft classical look in most arrangements and in most wired and taped items. As you can see, this is what I've done in this particular garland. I've grouped each sector of the flower to give it body. So you've got a grouping of Geraldton wax, then your rose, a grouping of Million Star, then your Geraldton wax, and then your rose. So there's each sector that brings the garland together. Now we've spoken about our fresh side of the garland. Now we need the actual accessories of the garland. I prefer to use the 0.71 mil gauge wire. It's fairly pliable and bendable and gives you a nice round feel when wiring and taping. You need your floristry tape, which is a waxy kind of feel, and it allows you to pull and stretch when I show you shortly. I've gone for a couple of accessories because I want to go a bit arty-farty. I'm using bullion wire, my ribbon. I'll see how it looks because you also don't want it to look kitsch. Might put a butterfly or two, some hair clips, and then I want to try and bring in a little bit of bling into my garland. So I've gone for more of a classical with a slight rustic look for my theme. And those are my accessories I will be using to assemble the garland together. Right, we're going to start the wiring and taping side. We're going to use our 71 mil gauge wire and the tape. So you have to watch very, very carefully. I like to cluster and make little groupings of fluffy stuff, if that makes any sense. It must look natural. You don't want a stiff looking grouping of flowers. So the way we do it is to make sure we put a little hairpin to secure the flowers so they don't fall. We tighten and we turn the tape to secure the stem of the flower to the wire, and you slowly pull and stretch the tape. It is waxy and it stretches and gives you a nice, neat, finished look with your wiring and taping. And make it look like a green stem. I know that sounds strange, but there's nothing worse than untidy workmanship. The next one we're going to assemble together is our Geraldton wax. You get white, you get a soft pink, you get so many variations of Geraldton wax. As I explained earlier on, they are very hardy and they're wonderful for bridal work and wedding work because they last and are durable. The same concept. I cluster to a point of a bush. I make a little shrub or a little bush purely because I want a natural garland. I want the flowers to flow. The fairies must dance between the flowers. The same concept, a little hairpin once again around the bush, if you want to call it that. Nice and neat. Our tape, and you secure it tightly and you turn. See the tight neck around the head of the bush, and you turn and you turn. It is time consuming. The general public don't understand when you do a garland of this nature. It's not a situation where you can just walk into the shop and say, oh, do you have a garland ready? Because there's a lot of time and preparation in putting a garland together, particularly if it's wired and taped. So that is our Geraldton wax. I've made some extra on this side so that we can assemble our garland. The next, which I explained to you earlier on, is our eucalyptus. Obviously, we're not going to put that in the hair. It's a little bit untidy and it's a lost boss. So we're going to neaten it up a little bit. So we have something that's a little bit stylish and it's going to look good. And the same sort of thing, I like to get all the stems at a center focal point, a neat point, another little hairpin wire, and you see it's secure. It's not going to fall out of your hair. It's all about workmanship. And yes, I do agree, having fun, but when you do it properly. And it lasts and lasts. I've done a garland where a client has phoned me after a week and has said to me, I don't know what you did. I said, oh, no, I just speak to my flowers. I'm a little bit weird in the head, but I love being weird. So that is how eucalyptus little bushy looks like. And I've made a few on this side so we can assemble once again. Then we move on to our pittosporum, beautiful garden shrub as well. And the leaves last very well in all bridal work and wedding work. I've chosen these flowers and the greeneries and the foliage purely because I'm worried about the heat and I want them to last long, because there's nothing worse than walking down an aisle or having a bridal shower and your garland looks absolutely dead and floppy. It makes you look floppy. So there's no floppiness here. We make sure our flowers are fresh and long lasting. We do treat the flowers as they come into the shop. They all get flower food, flower buckets are cleaned, and yes, we talk to our flowers. Sometimes you'll find that it stretches a little bit, so you just go on top of that tape again to secure it and make sure that you have a secure structure. It is fun. This is lots of fun. This is your creative juices flowing when we start this kind of workshop. I want to do a couple more because I want to show you how we can get a sort of a bushy effect. Now we're moving on to our little roses. I love to work in groups. I love to make sure that my table is organized. So I start off with one flower, wire and tape. Start off with the next flower, wire and tape. So that when you have the end result and you start putting it and assembling it together, you can plan. You don't have to, oh, quick, let's wire another rose, or oh, quick, you've got to try and find something else because you've got a hole in the garland and it's missing a flower. So I try and prep my work, or I do prep my work before starting the garland. All the wiring and taping is done before, and then I can plan from a balance point of view, from a design point of view, how I put the flowers together. Yes, I know you want a wild look and a garden sort of feel, but it must still look pleasing to the eye. It must still be attractive. And that is your goal at the end of the day when doing a designer piece or a floral piece. Whatever you are creating, it must be pleasing to the eye. Once again, I've got a little bit of a dead head there. I just cut that off. Everything about neatness. And there's another little cluster rose. I've done a few here.
Every now and then when you talk, I want you to look up at the camera.
Okay.
I know it's difficult to look at the hands. And
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Another little clustering together. And I'm going to do another little hairpin right through the two little stems. Please, it's important you use the right gauge wire for garlands. because sometimes the flower heads are very heavy and can droop, and then the head breaks off the wire. It's happened to me once or twice where the wrong wire was delivered, so I had to make a plan. But it helps secure the flower's head, particularly if it is a heavy flower. I'll show you now with a bigger type of flower. You need to make sure the head is secure. And there's another cluster. Okay. Nancy, may I ask you to bring me a cherry brandy rose? One of the orange ones. This is, you see how lovely these are? They've got little side shoots. It looks like it's just picked from the garden. You'd never force a flower in a position unless you're doing structured work. The flowers must grow naturally, and you must try and design your bush. No, the cherry brandy ones. Yes, please. So that the flower looks as natural as possible when executing your design or your creative piece. Oh, now I've got a thorn in my finger. You do not have elegant hands in floristry. Thank you, Nancy. No, the dark orange ones, my lovely. The cherry brandies. My favorite ones. See, look how nice that looks. It looks natural, it's not stiff, and you've got the little buds. It looks like a little garden bush. Right. Now we move on to the heavy flower, your focal flower. These are your fillers. This is your structural flower. Now we've got the focal flower. Thank you, Nancy. Now, this is one of my favorite. It's a cherry brandy rose. You get different types. Sometimes it look more pinky. Sometimes it really, really orange. But it's one of my favorite. It complements most colors. So with a heavy focal flower, you cut at a slight angle. And now the trick comes with a heavy flower. You've got to do 2 pins because of the weight of the flower. So you take your wire, cut it in half, and over the top of your wire, and you talk nicely, please, you're stabbing the poor flower. It's got feelings like humans. And you push nicely through the little head, and you make a hairpin. And then the other side, you do the same thing, just slowly below. I was very fortunate. I had a wonderful, wonderful teacher who was an international judge, and she taught me the real hardcore floristry. So my job when doing trendy trailing bridal bouquets was to wire and tape all the flowers. It took hours and hours, but I'm very grateful for it now because I now understand the value in floristry techniques. And look how beautiful that looks. Beautifully and neat. It looks like a green stem from the garden, and it's secure. The head's not doing this. It's firm. Now we're going to assemble everything together, and this is the fun part because this is where you can start playing and see how your garland balances and turns out in the end. I like to start off with a relatively secure wire first. I've got all my little wires that are all individually wired for each item, but with a single strong wire I like to start it with first. So I normally start off with a focal point or a starting point, if you want to call it. So I'm going to go with the grass to start the garland. Same scenario with the rose. And we just hairpin it because we want a sort of a loose look. And if you want to call it this, it's like your starting point, your line to your design, and then you build on it. Why aren't you listening to me? There we go. Same story with your hairpin look. Okay, so that's going to start the design. And you're going to gradually build on it, item by item. And when placing your flowers on a garland, you want to give it a natural look. Right, so for me, I'm going to start off with a pointy kind of look. I'm not just going to go to a boss like that. I like to start off with a little bit of a bush that has some fluffy ends, and then I start it just below, about an inch, a little few centimeters below your focal line, and you start working down, left to right, giving it a little bit of a creative flair. And we just tape a little bit, not right down, just tape a little bit because we've got to tape other flowers. I've moved on to the gelatin wax. Then I'm going to move on and just slightly below that. And you'll find that this particular tape is waxy. So it seems to stick nicely. Seems to make sure that everything is beautifully stuck together and it's not falling out of your hands. Sometimes when it's wet, it slips out of your hands and very difficult to hold. But this particular tape isn't like that. It is sticky and it helps secure the flowers. And remember what I mentioned to you earlier on, that your tape must be neat and tidy, because when your finished result and you put it over your garland, you don't want to see wires. You don't want to see shoddy workmanship. So there is, as you can see, I'm just slowly making my little garden. Now I've gone further down. Where did I lose my tape? There it is, sorry. Scissors go missing, tape goes missing. I'm sure most florists will know that. All in the dustbin when you're busy. I put a sporum. Now I'm going to bring in a little bit of a rosebud. And we start once again from that sort of focal point. And because it's wired, you've got a little bit of movability. So you don't break the rose head and you don't damage the flower. So you actually have movement. And what did I say earlier on? All your flowers must dance, or the fairies must dance between the flowers. It's got to look fresh, bright and beautiful. Now some people have very sort of small faces. So when creating a garland, you don't want, sometimes, this is my perception, you don't want the flowers to overtake the whole look of the face, because obviously it is a feature, but you still want to see the person's face. So it must accessorize what they're wearing, what the style is, and how they look. It must be elegant. Think of it as a piece of jewelry. Right, can you see I'm working from right to left. Is this right? Yes, it's right. Right to left. Oh my, that's not easy when you can't remember left and right. So I started gelatin wax, million star, pittosporum, penny gum, cluster rose. Now I go back into my routine here and I go back to the gelatin wax. So you can see a rhythm flowing. You can see the structure coming together where you're creating a little bit of uniformity, but it still has a little bit of a wild look and it's not so stiff. And look at the, can you see any wire there? There's no wire, it's just green tape. So yes, it takes time. So if the general public can be patient with us florists when we say you can't just walk in and order one, prep yourself. There's a lot of time that needs to be planned when making a garland. And it's also creative. It's a technique which most people don't know how to do, and it's a skill. Once again, from that center point, you tape nice and neatly, turn and twist, turn and twist, turn and twist. And you can see how my band is getting thicker. I'm slowly pulling the wire out to making it smoother. Then we're going to move on. We had some pittosporum. I've had too much coffee. Can you see what's happening here? We're getting a nice garden, bushy, kind of loose effect. Very creative. I get very excited about stuff like this. I love to see the end result. And always think out the box when doing garlands. There's a lot of stuff in our gardens that we can use for garlands, and we can experiment. Now you can see how that's starting to bend nicely and move nicely. So ultimately it's going to have that kind of effect. Now on this particular garland, I've gone a little bit creative. But what I did here is I thought, no, we must get some tortured willow. And tortured willow just created a nice little bit of movement. Movement in the line. So think of it, it's dancing. It's doing the cha-cha or the rumba. So these flowers are dancing. On the head, by the way. such fun. We can see closely the wire, that's the back end, and slowly the front end. Okay, now we're going to go on a little bit more of a difficult one, particularly if you do suffer from sore hands because of the weight of the rose. So I want my focal point, it must pop. So I've created a sort of a linear design and a sort of a grouping with certain flowers, and now I want my big flower or my focal point to pop. So with this, I bend it. You see the neck of the rose? I've bent it so that it's more movability. I can go like that, I can go like that, I can go like that, and it moves. If I need to put a little bit of bling or bullion wire, or if I need to put glue some stuff in between, like ribbon, so it's more accessible, because I'm still going to accessorize this garland. It's not just flowers. So on that note, you've got to hold fuss bait, tight, tight, tight. So you can turn the garland and make sure it is tight. Right? So you see what I'm getting to. You don't want to lose her. She's part of your design. So you must make sure she stands out a little bit in your garland. And then behind that, you start adding your little groups of green to give it more of like a bushy, natural flow. Because this is a garden show. So we want everything to just be as natural and beautiful as possible. We are celebrating the flower crown, or otherwise known as coronet, or otherwise known as, which I've had some very strange descriptions, headpiece. So yes, this is the celebration of the flower crown. We're going a little bit more structural with this flower crown in terms of what international designers do and florists do all over the world. But for our at-home creative people, we can also make it very simple, and I can also do workshops where we use a little bit more simple techniques. So you don't have to be overwhelmed. Anything is possible in the floristry world. So it stands out. And that is our focal point. So I have finished a garland, so you will see an end result, but this is the actual structure and how to assemble a garland. And you can see how neat it is. You can see at the back there's no wires showing. You don't want any wires hitting into the head and hurting. Can you imagine the bride and you've got wires sticking in your head and you're trying to say your vows and you know something's poking you in the head? Not a good idea. So you need to make sure that your workmanship is neat. And that is how the garland starts to evolve and take shape. Right, now the fun starts, and we're going to accessorize our garland with a little bit of arty-farty like bling and ribbons. So I'm going to call on my designer Nancy to just do a quick show on how she makes these little bows.
Hello, I'm going to cut my ribbon. I'm going to use orange ribbon to decorate my ribbon. So I'm going to cut it with my sharp scissors. If I'm doing my ribbon, I don't just throw my ribbon. I decorate to make it nicely so that it attracts people. It attracts our customers.
Right.
I'm going to put the ribbon.
And you crisscross.
Cross the ribbon.
Nice and neat.
Turn it around. So I'm going to cross the ribbon under each other.
There we go. Brilliant.
Here we go. I'm going to make it too tight. Then I'm going to make a knot. I'm not going to make it tight. I'm going to make it
Nice and soft. Yeah.
But if you make it tight, you're going to break the chocolate. I'm going to tie. I'm going to cut it V-shape at the end. get other sides. I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to make it sharp, V-shape. I'm going to make it smart. I don't just cut. So I'm going to take another ribbon. I'm going to cross it. See?
Perfect. Brilliant.
And then I'm going to tie it again on top of each other. You see this knot? We don't just leave this knot. I hide this knot. So I can take another ribbon here. Then I cut it. Because I don't want to waste my ribbon. Then I can cross it again. Then I can tie it again. Here I have to hide this knot. Like this.
That's clever.
So I'm going to make my V shape.
That's right.
Yeah. V shape. You have to be careful here to make this round same size. Don't make the other one is big, the other one is small. So I have to be careful to make the ribbon the same size.
There we go. Now we're going to accessorize the hairpiece. Thank you, Nance. Right, so this is our final product with all, as I explained previously, with the grouping and slowly creating a style and a rhythm in your flower garland. I've used in the tortured willow, and that is my focal point. So my focal point, I can either lean it to the one side of Nancy's head, she is our supermodel today, or I can leave it to the front of her head. But we're going to play now. This is about playing and having fun. Now, with me personally, I like to leave my garlands opened at the end, because some people are either having hair that's very, very thick and curly, and then the garland doesn't fit nicely. And then what I do is when I meet with the bride or the baby shower lady, we then close it together. So if you see how the two join and meet. Nancy, would you hold there for me, my love? I don't want anything untidy in terms of assembling it together. So I normally use bullion wire. It's very, very decorative wire, but you can hardly see it. And I tie the back of it and assemble the two together so that it's a loose crown. And obviously making sure that it is secure. Right, so we've neatened that off. And there is your round garland. Now we're going to place it on our model. Now we can fiddle around, okay? We can fiddle. I personally feel that we need to make the orange sit in front of her face. It pops. But now we can add bits and bobs. So I've got Nancy to do me a little ribbon, and we will glue gun the end because we don't want it to fall out. It's hot glue, so please be careful. I know you do get the cold floristry glue, but we just want to make sure. And then I put a pin through, so if you can see what I'm doing. Sorry, it's a little bit warm, this glue gun. Where am I going, Nancy? Right. And I'm going to just bring a little bit of a trail coming through the top. It's better to work, if you are doing a wedding, to work with the bride if you can get to the venue, and make sure that you can see what suits her face and do the flowers blend in. Right. That looks a bit better. Okay, up. Are we up? There we go. All right. Does that look balanced? I think we look good. Hey? Then we've got to move to the back slightly. We've got to finish the back. It's all about attention to detail. Glue gun, once again, it's a hot glue gun, a little bit at the back. we trail and finish it off. What fun is this? It's so nice being creative and dealing with beautiful things on a daily basis. This is why we do what we do. And I've just pinned it in nicely with the glue gun, so we have a little bit of a bling coming out there. It's all about finishing details. Her hair, nice and flowing. Now I'm going to try my luck here, because I do like my little bit of bling. And maybe we can turn around, my darling heart. Maybe we can bring in a little bit of bling. And I'm going to try this with my hair clip and get a little bit creative. You can wire and tape this in your garland, but this is just thinking out of the box and having fun now. So I haven't structurally put it into the garland. I'm just using the hairpiece. So we can bring in a little bit of bling. I think I'm going to start at the back here, so it flows a little bit at the back, because it's against the nice contrast of color and the reds and the oranges. Oh, looks so, I'm so excited. Sorry, a bit strange. Love beautiful things. See how it just gives it a little bit of a classy look. And you can, if you're going to do a little one for a Holy Communion, for example, for a little 12-year-old or a little tiny little girl christening, you could put miniature bows and you can put miniature crystals in it. Right, so now you need to move slowly there. Can you see what I've done? I've clipped it onto the wire, and there you've got bling hanging at the back. And doesn't it just finish it? It just gives it a different feel to the coronet. It's not just flowers. We've added a little bit of a feature, and it's just those little attention to details that gives you the wow factor in doing design pieces like this. So that is us. Your coronet is done. Nancy, you look beautiful. Hey? Well, that was a lot of fun. I hope you all learned something and had fun in creating and learning the techniques of making up a wired and taped garland. So please, will all of you get interactive, and please share me the garlands that you've made and share it to my Facebook or Instagram pages. And I'd love to assist and guide you along the way. It is a fun aspect of doing floristry. A couple of thank yous, Super Floral, who assisted me with the accessories, and my flower supplier, who is always going on beyond the call of duty with the quality of flowers that he sends me to RAM. And last but not least, my designer, Nancy. So please contact Mandy and Nancy at Cape Floral Designs, Bloberg Road. We are here to spread the love and teach you what fun it is about doing flowers, not only in the floristry world, but also using the flowers in your gardens, because anything is possible when being creative. Right, to celebrate Garden Day, Cape Floral Designs is having a competition, and we would like those who interact and show us their flower crowns or coronets and post them on our page, and we will have a panel that will judge the best coronet and garland, and there will be a flower voucher for a delivery in our local area to the value of $4.50. So please go out there and have fun.